Welcome to CEO, Leading the Real Economy, RSM's continuing series of conversations with middle market leaders about keeping their businesses on track through the public health crisis, modern challenges, and economic volatility. Here's your host, Joe Adams, CEO and Managing Partner of RSM US LLP.
Hi, everyone, and welcome. I'm Joe Adams, and today I'm joined by Bruce Stein, CEO of aXiomatic Gaming, a telecom, media, and technology company doing gaming and based in Los Angeles, California. Thanks for joining me today, Bruce.
You're welcome. Thank you.
So I've seen data about the rise of video gaming traffic, even increasing before the first half of 2020 and into March. How would you say that the stay-at-home orders have affected the widespread spread of your business?
Well, we're probably more fortunate than most because we're a digital-first format. And in that, so much of our audience was already accustomed to viewing the games at home and participating at home, and they play at home. The live portion of the game and the live audience part is a smaller segment. So from the standpoint of the impact on the viewing and fan engagement experience, for us, it's been somewhat smaller. We don't have the excitement of a live audience responding to a game and the team's success, but we still have online streaming, online tournaments. The publishers have all innovated and been able to bring their tournaments online so the games continue without risk of infection.
So the fact that sports really has come to a standstill, and you said you don't have the audience participation. It doesn't seem like many sports do right now. You've got golf and baseball without fans, so it's kind of interesting. But how do you think that as you go forward, as more and more people converge in esports and get involved, what types of things are you looking at doing to take advantage of that?
As I mentioned, the excitement of having the crowd respond to a tournament, when that's at play, along with the actual tournament itself, we see greater sales in digital sales of digital items and games. We see more merchandise sales, and the entire fan and viewing experience is much richer. Without that, what we try to do is right after the tournaments, we have the same kind of interviews with players that we had when it was live, so that as much of the real live experience is duplicated as we can possibly get. And actually, so for the first half of 2020, the Twitch numbers, Twitch is like YouTube just for gaming, right? So it's the fourth largest bandwidth consumption site in the world after Google, Netflix, and YouTube. Twitch is the fourth largest, and it's just for gaming. Their numbers in the first quarter were up double digits year over year. So the audience numbers are holding, the viewership numbers are holding, and it's up to us to try to find other content plays and merchandise plays and fan affinity programs to keep the fan base as engaged as they were before. And that's on the team side. aXiomatic, as you know, is an investment platform for gaming. And we have holdings with Epic Games, which is Fortnite and Rocket League, and Niantic, which is Pokemon Go. And all of those publishers have seen absolutely phenomenal increases in their business. And the quarantine, to some effect, is giving players a greater opportunity to both compete and to watch games. And then, just to add one more layer to it, Twitch held an event in the beginning of the lockdown around March that was Stream Aid. And it's like Live Aid, except for streamers and gaming. And they had it over a 12-hour period where they had live musicians and they had live gamers and they had all kinds of different online experience for gamers that was unique. And that's, I think, what people have to appreciate when they look at gaming, that it's more than just a competition. It has story, it has social elements, and it has other ways to engage the player base and fan base besides just the competition.
Right, and they're global events as well. I mean, people are being drawn in from everywhere.
Yeah, you're right. And when we started aXiomatic in 2015, the esport universe, which is the professional organized competition, was around 250 million. We're getting very close to 500 million now, just for esports. Total gamers is around 2.2 billion. So when you think about that, we're talking about just for esports, probably the third largest country in the world. And if you look at all gaming, it's the largest country in the world.
When you think about your business pre and post pandemic, Bruce, what is the biggest difference between how you operate?
About how the company operates, or about how gaming is operating?
How the company and gaming in particular.
Okay, so let me take them one at a time. From a company standpoint, I think the quarantine presents real challenges that you have to reinvent yourself to get around. Maybe I'm old school, and you've heard about a lot of companies who are saying they're not going to go back to in-office settings post-COVID. I think we miss the dynamic of being able to bounce ideas off of one another. And when you get into a rhythm of going to the same place in your house, staring at a screen for hours on end, it's definitely a drain emotionally and physically. When you get together, you have, I think, a lot of dynamics that are just irreplaceable on a screen. So what we've done is we've changed our meeting schedule. We try to vary what we're doing so that it feels different and it doesn't feel like Groundhog Day. But I think it's definitely a challenge. And I don't know that we will know for a while about what the ripple effect will be, because we won't be able to measure our results over this period for a little bit of time. The good news is most of our businesses that we invest in are online. So from that standpoint, the results of all of our investments have been very positive because of this.
Yeah, that's interesting. And I totally agree with you on the Groundhog Day. The energy that people create by being together, I think, creates creativity and stimulates those creative thoughts. So I think you're right. You're absolutely right about that. And I think I think there'll be a way that people work more from home than they did in the past. But eventually it'll gravitate toward the energy created by being together. And I think it'll morph maybe a little further than people think it will. Today, you hear a lot of people saying they never want to go back to work, but I can see it even in our employees that, just the constant grind, it just feels more like a grind when you're in the same place every day. So when you think about, the business, it's relatively new. Where do you see yourself going, and what types of leadership expertise have you been able to provide to help the company work its way through its first 5 years?
So as I look at our opportunities now, as our entire company, I think, is composed of leaders, I think our business is about shining light on areas of opportunity that I don't think people understood. When we started out with aXiomatic and we brought in a lot of new investors and major people in the financial as well as sports communities. And I would say that almost 100% of them wanted to invest and were interested. This was 2015. And I would say the same number, about 100%, had no idea what it was. And that's how early it is. And people didn't really understand what the tribalism is around esports. And so our leadership as a company is about bringing light to this new media format, which I've always believed is a culture change. I think it's as big a change as it was when we went from radio to television. Where in the beginning, people would just take a radio script and stand in front of a camera and read it for television. And it took a while for the medium to catch up, both from a creative standpoint, from a content standpoint, from audience segmentations. That's how early I think we are in the gaming world. And I use the word gaming because esports is just a sub-segment of it. But if you're going to do leadership and take some unprecedented moves, you have to have some convictions. And, Charlie Munger had a great expression once about he wished analysts would do less analyzing and more thinking. I think we put the emphasis on thinking. We use analytics to get to a comfortable place so we kind of know where things might go and we can have a handicapping of our own. But the thinking is about what value add we bring. Back to the earlier question, what that allowed for was gamers who are pro gamers who are playing 8 to 10 hours a day and who have been playing that long in basements for a long time. It allows them to socialize with a broader company and have water cooler conversations that you wouldn't get when you're remote. And I liken their prior experience in gaming, where they were in houses and secluded, to what quarantining is like. And I think when we opened it up to a training center and professionalized it, we wound up with a far richer experience, both for the professionals, players, as well as the staff. But what we've tried to do is a little bit of a blend between the experience, let's just use that as the name, the experienced management, as well as the new management that understands the fabric of the cloth, that is an authentic voice.
How do you recruit like the gamers that kind of join your team?
And that's a great question, because the part that is similar to sports, it is competition, and you can get a superstar in terms of their play mechanics, but maybe they don't blend so well with the team. So we have found that finding a balance and then bringing in a mental coach who listens to the cons as they're playing and coaches them on how they should interact better to get more out of each player. That kind of discipline helps us in recruiting, because we start listening, let's just say, with a third ear, where we're looking for emotional connectivity and emotional maturity. And again, what makes these guys so great is their youth and their ability to do 300 actions a minute and be able to process at a speed that's remarkable. But you still have to work as a team. And that's the part that is the art. I think the part that I've been most fascinated by is when the unexpected negative thing happens. You have some kind of issue with a player, or you have to make a trade, or you lose a player. How well the management group adapts to that and reconstructs a winning franchise. And we started out, I said, we've had a good weekend. We're tied now for first place in League of Legends, the biggest game. But last split, we were second to the last. We didn't even make it to the playoffs after winning 4 consecutive North American championships. So I like how our management group adjusted, and now we're seeing positive results. Not that I think you have to win every time, but that you're improving. Right. It's about progress, not perfection, right? So I like the way we progress.
And as you think about sports and entertainment kind of making their way back into the mainstream, how do you continue the momentum that you've experienced in the last 6 months?
Well, I think our ability to do content for each of the teams has been minimized by being locked down. One of the things that makes this sport great and really fabulous is that in addition to watching the competitions, you can watch your favorite stars practice through their streams. So you could liken that to saying, hey, I get to watch Steph Curry during practice. And you get to almost have an intimate view of a professional, a star, that you wouldn't get just from a tweet or just from watching them play in tournaments. That content that we do, which is kind of behind the scenes, showing how they interact, is a big part of our fan draw. And it's something that we're eager to get back to once we get past the quarantine. Right now, the isolation that we've put in the training center is putting a priority on the professional players so that they can play there and practice together. But I'm looking forward to being able to building up our content and being able to, for instance, we were the first team to do a cross promotion with Marvel. Disney's an investor in aXiomatic, and we tried to do a cross-platform, cross-property collaboration with Marvel, where we started doing jerseys that were themed off of Marvel characters along with the liquid theming. And what that gave us, just to think of it in simple terms, is not only were we able to market jerseys and apparel during tournaments, but we could create a new line during feature releases. So when Marvel released a movie, we could create a line of apparel that co-promoted with them that movie. So it gave us a new occasion, a new marketing event. And once things open up and the theaters go back and Disney gets back to a more traditional release schedule, as does Marvel, I think we're going to have much greater opportunities to expand our merchandise offering.
So when you reflect on how aXiomatic and Team Liquid, I guess, have performed over the course of the pandemic and the opportunities that have recently kind of been provided, what are you most proud of the organization over the last 3 to 6 months?
Certainly what I mentioned before is got to be top of the list, which is adjustments that the Team Liquid group had to make to the Dota team and to the League of Legends teams where we lost players, and being able to create a new team and have maybe not the exact same success, but very close to it. I think that's remarkable. Okay, that would be something that I would say it falls into the category of a sustainable competitive advantage. It says that as we continue to have the systematic events that I think every team will face and every sport would face, we've demonstrated an ability to respond to it in a way that shows we can field another competitive team. I'm very happy about that. From a financial standpoint, our results are very close to forecast, but the places where we have fallen short, because we're not traveling and because we're not incurring the same level of expenses in going to all those places, our overall profitability has remained pretty much on forecast. I'm proud of being able to do that. Even though we're a digital first format, you're still subject to, a world that is suffering under, this everyday news about COVID is going to continue and it's being iterated and we're going to be wearing masks for the rest of our life. I mean, all of that makes people less likely to participate and buy. I'm glad that we can provide a relief, but I'm also glad that people are following us in the middle of this, and we've been able to, despite all of that, hold on to a forecast that, again, shows, I think, a sustainable competitive advantage that even in the midst of this world, we've been able to keep the company going.
I guess that kind of sums up our conversation. I really thank you for joining us, Bruce. I appreciate the insights that you've provided. I think we've all learned a little bit more about esports and the fun and exciting nature of the games. And so certainly wish you and your team great health and success in the time to come. And for our viewers, thank you for joining us. I hope you appreciate the conversation as much as I did. For Bruce Stein, this is Joe Adams, and we'll see you next time.